Good morning, class. Good morning, everyone. Before anything, I would like to ask everyone, how are you today? How is your whole weekend? Despite of the stress made by this pandemic and the typhoons that we experienced these few days or weeks. Hope that you all class are okay. So this morning, me and my partner will be reporting about the parts of a lesson plan. We will also give you the essence of a lesson plan, why we need to do a lesson plan as educator. So, we will also give you the components and formats of a lesson plan. So by the way, I am your educator for today. I am Sir Marwin Macola, or you can also call me Sir Mar. So welcome to our class. Without further ado, let's start our class today. Our lesson objective is that at the end of this lesson, you would be able to first, explain what is lesson plan. Second, list format of a lesson plan and share it on class. Third, create on lesson plan using its format. So, let's all think, what is lesson plan? According to Wikipedia, a teacher's detailed description of a course of instructions for an individual lesson. So according to Education Dictionary, a lesson plan is a written guide for trainers, plans in order to achieve an intended learning outcomes. It provides specific definitions and direction on learning, objectives, equipments, instructional media, material equipments, and conduct of training. A term plan for those in tertiary level is the course syllable required of each professor in college in every term, semester, or summer. It is also called as course plan or course study. A unit plan is a segment of a yearly plan or course plan in the same way that the lesson plan is a segment of the unit plan. The lesson plan may be done on a daily or weekly basis. More schools make daily lesson plans, but some schools, particularly those with innovative leaders, are beginning to make use of weekly plans. In this book or in this lesson, we shall concerned with a daily lesson plan. It is said to be a structured roadmap of what students need to learn and how it will be done effectively during the class time. So in short, it will serve as guide for educator on how to have effective teaching. Next, let's think about what's the purpose of a lesson plan. It could be, what is the purpose of lesson plan for student or educator? So lesson plan, communicate to you. For you to have communication for your student as educator. So learning is a teacher's and students' interactions. Next, let's move on to objectives and the purpose of a lesson plan. So first, it informs students why they are with you. Second, what they will be able to do during class. Next, the learners will. So it is very vital for the students to know why they were in school, what they do need to do. So, in the objective of lesson plan, we should also follow the SMART rule. First, specific. Next, measurable. Attainable. Result-oriented, and time-bound. So, lesson plan, to be specific, let's try to ask students if their goal is specific. So, to be measurable, let the students know that their goal must be measurable. For attainable goals that can be achieved with their current skills and abilities. So we should also think, what are the abilities and skills of our students? So if the lesson objective is relevant, it is said to be meaningful and important. So for time-bound or timely, it is critical that the goal has time constraints. It is no urgency created by an open-ended goal. Next, the purpose of lesson plan. So for the learners, they realize the teachers cares for their learnings. Next, they attend a structural lessons, easier and assimilate. They appreciate their teachers' works as model or well-organized work to imitate. So if teachers have effective lesson plan, their students are eager to learn. They're willing to learn. Next, it helps give good classroom management. So when a lesson plan works well, students not only learned, they behave. So we have here the classroom management plus well-designed lesson plan have higher achieving students. So when we have a good lesson plan, so we can produce a productive student. We can produce highly competitive students. So lesson plan also used as guide for the teachers, so they don't have to think on their feet. Give the teachers a starting point. They build on previous teaching and prepare for current lesson. So it provides directions. They are clear on the procedures to follow. So give teachers a sense of security and confidence. They don't lose face in front of their learners. So it provides records. So if teachers have a good lesson plan, an effective lesson plan, it provides teacher security and confidence. They will not lose in the focus. So I have here a questions. Do we really need a lesson plan? For us as educator, do we really need a lesson plan? Of course, the answer is yes. So like for example, teachers plan its lesson plan before discussion or before teaching the course or unit. Of course, the students will learn easier and they will become organized. On the other hand, like for example, teachers don't create their lesson plan ahead. So it will cause students to panic. Their students will become not organized. Because lesson plans is not only for us as educators but also for our students. So for us to have good lesson plan, we need to consider these 4 things. So first, interests and abilities of the students. So we need to think of the abilities and interests of the students for us to have good lesson plans. So next, your own interests and strengths, your belief about teachings and learning, and also your own openness to change your lesson plan. So teachers as educators, we need to become flexible. We need to change, or we are open for any changes in our lesson plan. Next, the followings are what to consider when designing a lesson plan. So I have discussed earlier that we need to know your students as teachers. So ability and interest levels, background of the students, attention spans of the students, ability to work together in groups, or your students are willing for interactions activities, their prior knowledge and learning experiences, special needs of accommodations, and the learning preferences. So we need to know as educator, we need to know the differences of our students. We need to consider students' multiple intelligences. Next one, we need to know the content as educator to have good lesson plans. So first, subject matter that we'll be teaching. Next, the state or school district curriculum guides. Then the national state curriculum standards. So next factor to be considered in designing a lesson plan, we need to know the material. So what we need to use. First, technology, software. It could be audiovisual, teachers, mentors, community resources, equipments, library resources, the local guest speakers. So there is a key concepts of a lesson plan. So it includes the following: profile, objectives, materials and equipments, procedures, and assessments. So profile, it is the basic information about the lesson. So it includes the following: name of a lesson, contributor, subject, grade level, instructional settings, it could be small group or whole class, general description of a lesson, and standards. Next is the objective. So it determines what you want students to learn and be able to do. So it focuses on the concept or skills which you intend to teach. So example, organize, design, prototype content-rich websites that are easy to navigate and search. Objective may be in a statement or question form. For example, an objective like to explain the causes of the thinning down of the ozone layer may be converted into what are the causes of the thinning down of the ozone layer. That's an example of objectives. So next, let's think what are the instructional materials that can be used by educators. Materials include the PowerPoint presentations or the visual aids, textbooks, journal articles, multimedia materials, instructional video or audio, job aid, rubric or checklist. Then, let's think the equipments available for the instructors. So it's commonly used instructional equipment. It includes the software application, it could be PowerPoint or media player. Computer equipments. Under computer equipments are the computer and the internet connections. And video equipments or projectors. So materials and equipments are there for us to be able to make the abstract concrete and to arouse our pupils and student interest in the lessons. Next key concept is the procedure. Procedure consists of an outline of the development of the lesson. How will I treat the topic or subject matter? What strategies and techniques shall I employ? What questions shall I ask? What activity shall I give to my students? In short, with a particular lesson objective and with materials my disposal, how shall I proceed? Then, the last key concept of a lesson plan is the assessment. So, it assists the outcome and to what extent the objectives were achieved. Then, it ensures the assessment activity is directly and explicitly tied to the stated objectives. Then, as an educator, let's take time to reflect upon the results of our assessment and revise the lesson plan accordingly. So let's think the assessment activities available for the instructors. Some commonly used assessment activities. So these are the following: quizzes, tests, independently performed worksheet, cooperative learning activities, hands-on experiments, oral discussion, question and answer session. Then, after assessment has done or the teacher has already given the quizzes activities, we need to take time to reflect upon the results and, if possible, revise the lesson plan accordingly to have excellent lesson plan. As I said earlier, a good teacher need to become flexible. So changes may be accept, changes may be happen, so we need to be flexible.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, classmates. I am Jennifer Macola. I am the second reporter this morning. My topic is all about types of lesson plan. Types of lesson plan. There are several types of lesson plan. The following are detailed lesson plan and semi-detailed lesson plan. In detailed lesson plan, it provides mastery of what to teach and give the teacher the confidence when teaching. In this plan, both teacher and student activities are presented. A detailed lesson plan will give information in detail about a lesson plan. This is the example of detailed lesson plan in English 2. First, objectives. Second is subject matter, and third, procedure. Under procedure, it is preliminary activities, which is teacher and student activity is presented. Under preliminary activities is prayer. After prayer, the teacher greets the student. Next is review. A teacher asks students if they still remember their last lesson. After preliminary activities is developmental activities. First is motivation. The teacher motivates the student. He asks if they have a favorite cartoon character. Then the teacher read the story. Under motivation is presentation. The teacher asks if they understand the story. The next is discussion. Teacher start to discuss the story, then he started to ask questions to the student. After discussion is application. The teacher prepare a word hunting. The purpose of this is to apply the learning of student about the topic were discussed. In generalization, the teacher see if student really understand the lesson, then he asks question. Evaluation. In evaluation, the teacher evaluate if student is learned. He prepared a short quiz or examination. At the end of the class, the teacher give an assignment. Semi-detailed lesson plan. A semi-detailed lesson plan is less intricate than the detailed lesson plan. It is having a general game plan of what you wanted to cover for that subject on what particular day. A semi-detailed lesson plan will give information about a lesson plan but not as much as a detailed lesson plan. A brief lesson plan will give mainly just an outline of the lesson plan. This is the example of semi-detailed lesson plan. In semi-detailed lesson plan, it has objectives, subject matter, and procedure. Under procedure is review, motivation, activities, abstraction, and application. Next to procedure is assessment, and the last is assignment. The difference between detailed lesson plan and semi-detailed lesson plan is in detailed lesson plan is detailed from daily routines to lesson proper, conversation, and question and answer between the teacher and student. But in semi-detailed lesson plan has only contained procedure or steps to be used in the lesson proper.
Three lesson plan models are Gabby's 9 events of instruction, Madeline Hunter's 7-step lesson plan model, and the 5 E's model. The 9 events of instruction by Robert Gabby's are: first, gain attention or reception. It ensures that the learner are ready to learn and participate in activities by presenting a stimulus to capture their attention. Example, pose thought or provoking question to student. Number 2, inform learners of objectives or expectancy. The student need to inform objectives or outcomes for the course and individual lesson to help them understand what they are expected to learn and do. Example, describe required performance. Number 3, stimulate recall of prior learning or retrieval. It helps students make sense of new information by relating it to something they already know or something they have already experienced. Examples are ask questions about previous experience or ask students about their understanding of previous concept. Number 4, present the stimulus or selective perception. Use strategies to present lesson content to provide more effective instruction, like presenting multiple versions of the same content. Examples are video demonstration or group work, etc. Number 5, provide learning guidance, or it is called semantic encoding. It helps students learn how to learn. Present a model varied learning strategies. Examples are concept mapping, role-playing, or visualizing. Number 6, elicit performance or practice. Students apply what they have learned to reinforce new skills and knowledge and to confirm correct understanding of course concept. We need to facilitate student activities. Example, ask deep learning question, giving individual or group project. Number 7, provide feedback or reinforcement. Provide timely feedback of student performance to assist and facilitate learning and to allow students to identify gaps in understanding before it's too late. We inform also students what they did and what they are supposed to do and encourage the learner. Number 8, assess performance. We test the expected learning outcome having achieved on previously stated course objectives, like administer a pre and post test to check propagation of competency and content or skills, or embed formative assessment using oral questioning. Number 9, enhance retention or transfer. It helps learners to retain more information by providing them opportunities to connect course concepts to potential real-world applications. Have students convert information learned in one format to another format, like requiring students to create a concept map to represent connections between ideas. 3 Lesson Plan Models by Madeline Hunter, 7-Step Lesson Plan Model. First is review. At the beginning of the lesson, we need to review previous materials that is relevant to the lesson. Number 2, anticipatory step. Getting students to focus to their attention on the material to be presented, getting them interested or prepared for what they are about to learn. We get the focus of student or attention on the lesson. Number 3, objectives. State the objective for the lesson. Before the lesson is prepared, the teacher should have a clear idea of what the teaching objective that will use, or what specifically should be student be able to do, understand, and care about as a result of teaching. Number 4, input and modeling. Presenting a new information to student once the material has been presented. Student gain knowledge or skills through lecture, video, or pictures, etc. by using them to show student example what is expected as an end by the product of their work. Number 5, checking understanding. Determine whether the student have got it before to proceed. It is essential that the student practice doing it right so that you know the student understand before proceeding to practice, like thumbs up if they get or understand. Number 6, guide or practice. Immediate after instruction, students are given the opportunity to apply or practice what they have just learned and receive immediate feedback. Number 7, independent practice. After students appear to understand the new material, they are given the opportunity to further apply or practice using the new information. This may occur in discuss or like giving homework assignments. 3 lesson plan models under the 5S model. The 5S model focuses on allowing students to understand a concept over time through a series of established steps or phases. These phases include engage, explore, explain, elaborate, and evaluate. In engage, the teacher works to gain an understanding of the students' prior knowledge and identify any knowledge gap. Teacher might assist students with asking opening question or writing down what they already know about the topic. Examples are brainstorming or ask question. Number 2, explore. During the exploration phase, students actively explore the new concept through concrete learning experience. This allows students to learn in a hands-on way, like for example, observation, read articles, and research. Number 3, explain. Once they've explored, students attempt to explain what they have learned and experienced with help from the teacher. In this phase, teacher utilize video, computer software, or other aids to boost understanding. Number 4, elaborate. From their students elaborate on their understanding, applying what they've learned to new situations to develop their skills. Examples are make connections. This phase allows students to connect their knowledge before evaluation. And the last is evaluate. In the final phase, students evaluate or reflecting on the providing evidence of their new understanding of the material. In this phase, students evaluate through giving examination or assignments or self-assessment. Lesson planning advice, the do's and don'ts. For do's, be specific, anticipate problems, decide timing, have materials ready, and file your plan for the future. And for don'ts, we avoid too many details and do not use complex terms and words. And the best advice is behavioral implications. If students are misbehaving, consider rearranging the order of delivery and compare what actually happened with your original plan.
Okay class, please watch the following video about lesson plan. So thank you and God bless.
Hello and welcome to Teachings in Education, Lesson Planning. What components are required in lesson planning? A teacher's lesson plan should include, at the very least, these 12 different components. The first necessary component is the title. When naming your lesson plans, begin with the course subject, grade level, and your name. The title should be clearly presented somewhere at the top of the lesson plan. It should be easy for administrators to recognize whose lesson plan it is. Next up, the date, which is more important than you actually think. Teachers will not argue that one of the most common mistakes are using old lesson plans and forgetting to change the date. It happens to me all the time. When teachers get caught using older dates, it indicates they are not actually planning their lesson. The third component is the lesson objective. Each lesson should have a learning goal. The goal should be characterized as SMART, which means it's specific, measurable, achievable, results-focused, and time-bound. These learning goals should be posted somewhere in the class for both students and administrators to view. The next component is the standards, which is quite an important component. Lesson plans must be tied to at least one state standard. Teaching to the state standards is important because your students will eventually take standardized tests. And if you haven't covered your standards, you eventually set your students up for failure. Moving on to the fifth component, which is the actual plan for the lesson. Each lesson should have a beginning, a middle, and an ending. You should also write in the sequence of activities and events in your lesson. For example, maybe your plan begins with an anticipatory set, then a lecture, then an activity, and finishes up with an assessment. The sixth component of lesson planning is the assessment. Remember, each lesson objective with its aligned standard must be assessed for student comprehension and understanding. Now, when I say assessment, that can mean something as simple as a quick formative assessment, such as an exit ticket, or perhaps a unit assessment. The next component has been surrounded by some debate lately: homework. Let me be the first to say that homework is absolutely necessary. Add specific pages and problems for homework assignments. You know, kids spending time doing their homework isn't a bad thing. You should be assigning homework. The next part of lesson planning is to add some cross-curriculum standards. English language arts and other subject standards should be included when touched upon in a lesson. Especially look to incorporate English language arts. Think about a physics lesson on quantum mechanics and Albert Einstein. That lesson could have both history and science standards. The next component is differentiation, which great teachers actually do. You can include differentiation of instruction through content, process, and product. Also, differentiate for students with disabilities and ELL students as well. It should be noted that differentiation of instruction takes a lot of time and effort as well as planning. The 10th component is technology. Add technology skills and practices into your lesson plan if possible. Now, not all lessons you give will incorporate technology. Nevertheless, as teachers, we must prepare students for the technological world. The next component should be included is the written component. Remember, writing is a transferable skill that students need for most disciplines and need as career professionals. Even if you're teaching math, Have your students write out steps to solving a problem. Place open-ended questions in your assessments. And now, we finally made it to the last component, career skills and career-ready practices. All teachers should try to instill career-ready practices that will prepare their students for careers later on in life. Education is ultimately the responsibility for preparing students for life outside of school. And click the link below for a sample of this lesson plan.